I'm curious, have either of you done any meditation, Zion and Noah?
Yes, I actually meditated this morning. It's just like me sitting and like listening to like peaceful music and just thinking.
Beautiful.
I have done some meditation in the past. I started to do it like last summer, like at least once a week, but I've kind of fallen out of that routine. So I'm definitely trying to get back into it though.
Well, you're both way ahead of where I was as a sophomore, so
Yeah.
that's great. I'm really glad you're checking it out.
From PBS NewsHour Student Reporting Labs,
and WETA Wellbeings
this is On Our Minds
with Noah
and Zion.
a podcast about teenagers and mental health because life is hard.
Really hard.
And hearing stories about what other teens are going through and how they're getting better, it helps.
Hey Noah.
Hey Zion.
We're back for one final bonus episode.
I'm so sad that this is it for now, Zion, but I'm also really excited to share this conversation. Why don't you tell everyone who we talked to? They heard a little bit of her voice at the top.
Yeah, we got to talk with Dr. Tara Brach. She's a psychologist, author, and well-known meditation teacher.
Our conversation with her was super enlightening, so we're going to devote this entire episode to our interview with her.
Yep, and she even led us in a guided meditation.
Which I found really calming.
Me too, I can't wait to listen again. Here is our conversation with Tara Brach.
Can you explain what meditation is and how do we start if we've never done it before?
Yeah, so meditation really means any training of the mind that helps to cultivate positive states. So it could be any way that you learn to pay attention so that you have more of a sense of peace or more of a sense of focus or more of a sense of open-heartedness. It's like exercise. There are a lot of different kinds of meditation. I mean, meditation is a way of mental exercise. And mindfulness is a type of meditation that really trains us to be in the present moment without any judgment, just to notice what's going on right here and now. So that's a style of meditation. And you asked how you get started. And again, I mean, it could be like exercise. We mostly need some training at the beginning to know how to do it well. And so, some people go to live classes. You can use guided meditations. There's a lot of free ones. You don't have to spend a lot of money. And guided meditations get you kind of familiar with how to then guide yourself in. Generally, people do a still meditation where they're sitting somewhere and they get quiet and they turn their attention inward and they take some moments to come back home again into their own bodies and minds rather than being all over, in the past or in the future. So that's generally the way people start in. Does that resonate with your experience of meditation?
Yeah, I definitely think that it
Yeah.
helps you really be in the moment. With everything going on in our heads, it just really grounds you.
That's exactly it. I mean, most of us are in like a trance. You know what I mean? We're
Yeah.
kind of either drifting into worry or plan or reminding ourselves of stuff. And it's rare that we're actually, okay, aware of these sounds and these feelings and just grounding with the earth. But the trick with meditation, here's the challenge, is that we tend to judge ourselves. We judge ourselves anyway, but then we bring it into meditation and think, oh, I'm not a good meditator. My mind's all over the place. I'm lost in thought. I'm not doing this right. So the real trick with meditation is not to judge, just to bring interest and friendliness. I think of it like we're training a puppy, that's kind of the way I think of it. Like, the puppy is going to go off into the corner and pee, and we don't punish the puppy. We just say, come back, come back. We're bringing our mind back over and over again to the present moment. So it's firm, it's gentle, and gradually the mind starts learning how to come out of all of its thoughts, especially the thoughts that create havoc, anxiety. and just come back and be here and be more relaxed and open. So that's, to me, that's a real key, is that we just don't judge and trust that, even a few minutes a day, and you've probably both discovered this, you don't have to meditate for long stretches. Just a few minutes a day, if you're regular, really makes a difference. You start kind of knowing a way to come home to yourself.
Well, I listened to your podcast, and what I realized from listening to it is that I'm very prone to being stressed out. You know what I mean? I don't really take time for myself to just sit and be with myself. So my question is, how do we prevent situations like that from happening? How do we stop pushing the boulder, as you mentioned in your podcast, and truly make time for ourselves and make sure we're becoming the person we want to be?
Well, Zion, I'm so glad you mentioned that phrase, pushing the boulder. This is Greek mythology, okay? And it's like Sisyphus, an ancient Greek, was condemned to spend his whole life pushing a boulder up a mountain, and then it only rolls back down again, and then he has to go and push it again. And so when you say that you find yourself pushing the boulder, it's like this endless, like, striving to get somewhere. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when you are doing that, what do you sense is driving you? Like when you find yourself really caught up and always needing to do the next thing?
I think it's stress and anxiety, honestly. I think worrying about my future is really what pushes me to get caught up in certain things.
So you're naming, like, how many of us are worried about our future, like that we're not going to come through, we're not going to get into the next school, or we're not going to get the job, or we're not going to get the partner. We're just always pushing to make sure that we can get the next thing. And it means we don't get to enjoy what's right here. And here's what's scary, is that if we're in the habit of pushing and we don't change it, we push right up until the end of our lives. It's like we're racing to the finish line, and what's at the finish line? So it's like, how do we actually drop in and enjoy our lives? And so one of the first pieces is just what you have done, which is catch yourself when you're in that. It's like you just say, okay, I'm pushing the boulder, like actually naming it. I'm striving, there's anxiety, pushing. So the first step is to become more aware. The second step is to start practice little pauses. And by that, this isn't like you stop doing what you're doing forever, but just take short pauses. And it's a real art form to do it, where you just stop and breathe, 3 long, deep breaths. Just that. It's really amazing. It changes your whole biochemistry. If you stop in the middle of, all the speeding around, and even right now, just feel yourself, okay, I'm just going to breathe. I'm going to really arrive just in this moment and take 3 breaths. It's amazing what happens. And then what you start noticing is you can feel the anxiety that's been driving you, and it doesn't feel comfortable, but breathe with it. Because if you stay a little bit longer after breathing with it, you can then ask yourself, okay, what really matters? And I'm curious for each of you, like, if you just really paused and asked yourself, if you really think of your life, what's most important, what comes to mind for you?
I don't know. I guess what's really important, I would say for me, is making sure I'm living my best life. You know what I mean? That I'm connected with myself and that I'm a whole human being. If that makes sense.
No, that's beautiful. Okay, so let's take it one step further. So if you want to really be connected with your best self, and if you and really feel like you're living your life, when that's happening, what's going on? What does it feel like inside you? Who are you in those moments? How do you act? What's it like?
It's free. It's very freeing when you're not, anxious, when you're not trying to figure out what the next thing is. It's like weight has been taken off of your shoulders and you just feel like, ah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
You kind of expand it. You just poof,
Mhm.
you're free. So when you're pausing, when you've been pushing the boulder, what you do is you pause, you breathe in with what's going on, and just ask yourself what really matters. It's not getting the next thing checked off the list. You know that at the end of your life, looking back, that's not going to be what mattered, right? It's going to be that you
Right.
just felt that freedom. And you could then you can be spontaneous, you can be creative, your natural intelligence comes through. You become who you really are, Zion, right? So that's the
Yes.
thing. And I asked Zion, I'm curious for you, Noah, if you were asking yourself that question, what really matters? What comes up?
I would probably think about who's around me. How can I make everyone else's life easier? Once everyone else is content, then can I finally be content?
So is that a way that you push the boulder, trying to make sure everybody else is content first?
Yeah,
So if you asked yourself, if you were like at the end of your life, looking back, what would most matter? How would you wish you would live your life?
I would probably wish that I lived my life knowing everyone around me was happy and, they enjoyed living their life to the fullest, just like I did.
So it really does matter to you that others are happy.
Yeah,
That sounds like a very sincere, very pure motivation, isn't it?
yeah.
So it seems for you, if you're pushing the boulder and you're distracted by other stuff, what you'd be doing is pausing and saying, well, what really matters is others are happy and I'm content. That you really want to go for happiness, not for being distracted by stuff. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah.
That was kind of a long-winded response to your very good questions, Ian, about what do we do if we're pushing the boulder? We have to come back and remember what matters to us.
That makes sense. I like
Yeah.
that. I really do like that.
Another trick is every day when you get up, before you do very much of anything, just take a few moments to breathe and ask yourself, what's my deepest intent? What do I care about? And what happens, it creates like a gravitational field and it keeps inviting you back to what matters so you don't get so waylaid, you don't get so caught off in the trance.
So, asking yourself that question, does that end up motivating you throughout your entire day?
The whole path is about forgetting and remembering. We all forget. We all get caught in like less important stuff. We all get that, happens to every one of us. And what happens is you have more inclination to remember when you set your intention. And the more you practice pausing and asking yourself that question, the more you'll remember. And then your actions become aligned with your heart. And that's the goal.
So would you say that meditation is truly the key to connecting our emotions? And how does connecting to our emotions, is it beneficial to our mental health in any way?
So the key in connecting to emotions is to do it mindfully. What that means is think of emotions like a weather system, okay? Because that's what it is. It's our inner weather. So let's say you have a stormy day. To be mindful means you don't get possessed by it. In other words, you don't go around believing all your angry thoughts and acting out and lashing out at people. You're not possessed. It also means, if you're being mindful, that you're not dissociated, that you're honestly aware of what's going on. So it's not possessed and it's not disconnected. So what does that look like? Let's say, just thinking of an example, let's say somebody rejects you or treats you in a way that feels really like disrespectful, okay? So you're angry, right? So what does it mean to be mindfully connected to anger then? Well, it means that you don't go and try to get them back and speak negatively about them behind their back, or you don't go lash out at them because that's just going to create more and more negative energy, right? So that's,
Yeah.
you don't want to be possessed, but you also don't want to ignore what you feel. You want to be true. So every emotion has an intelligent message, and that's really important. Every message, from our emotions needs to be heard by us. So if it's anger, it's saying, well, protect yourself in some way. There's something here that's going on. So if, let's say, somebody's treated you in that way, well, you create more boundaries. You don't hang out with them so much. You don't confide in them. You know what I mean? You're intelligent. So that's the message of the anger. But you don't lash out at them. But it goes a step deeper, that when you felt anger, it's a sign that there's something underneath that wants your attention inside you. When I get angry at somebody, I'm like, let's say my partner does something and I feel angry at him. If I really check honestly, underneath the anger, there's hurt. Okay, there's something hurt. So it takes courage to stay and say, okay, I'm feeling hurt. And then to learn, and this is the real trick, how to be kind towards ourselves when we're feeling hurt. But here's what you win from all of that, is that if you stay connected with your emotions in these ways, and you know how to be intelligent in your behaviors with others, and you know how to be honest with yourself and kind, you end up feeling reconnected to yourself in a really empowering way. You feel like, okay, I know who I am. I know how to take care of myself. I can be in the world and do it in a way that I feel good about. If we don't do that, the alternative, either we stay angry and we're just this really angry person, or we're cut off from our anger and we're not in touch with ourselves. So that's like a kind of explanation on why we really need to be connected to our emotions. And sometimes I'll teach people, if you realize you're feeling bad, it's really amazing practice to stop and put your hand on your heart and just send a kind message to yourself. And at first, when people think about it, they think, oh, that's embarrassing or weird. But I can promise you that when people, and they do it on their own because we don't want to do it in front of others usually, but when people learn how to just be kind to themselves in that way, it really starts building a relationship with our inner life that we can then meet the world with a lot more strength. We're more inhabiting ourselves, and we can offer more care to others. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I think it makes sense that, you can't truly like care about others until you learn how to care for yourself.
So if you're not happy within yourself, you can't be, happy towards other people.
The greatest gift for any of us is if we can like ourselves and trust who we are, because then we tend to like others and trust them, and it just creates a positive cycle of good energy in the world.
So many teens are really struggling right now with anxiety, depression, and all kinds of stress. What advice or words of wisdom can you give to us all?
Yeah, when we start getting stressed and feel anxious or depressed, we feel isolated. We feel like we're alone, like we're the sick one. We really often hate ourselves for it. And people don't always notice that when they're anxious and depressed, they're also blaming themselves for feeling anxious and depressed. And if we can let go of the blame and say, look, this is an epidemic. This isn't me. This is a society that is spiraling into more and more violence and addiction and speediness. And, there's a lot of sickness in the society. And so we're being conditioned by it. I mean, there's a reason that you said, Zion, that you're pushing the boulder because you're worried about your future. It's like we're in a society that makes us worry about, am I going to be successful? Am I going to get into the right school? Am I going to get the job I need? Do I look like I need to look? Is my body the right weight? It's like there are so many standards that we're always measuring against. And of course, we're bound to feel like we're falling short. It's a setup to feel bad about ourselves. I call it the trance of unworthiness, where we get lost in this trance of feeling like that something's wrong with us. And that, to me, is the pain point. And if you can begin to see, oh, okay, I'm stuck in the trance of unworthiness. That's actually the beginning of waking up from it. To me, one of the most powerful things to know is that when your thoughts start telling you you're a bad person, you're failing, you're not doing enough, you don't look as good as another person, whatever it is, don't believe your thoughts. You don't have to believe your thoughts. And if you can get the knack of that a bit, that's freedom. That's like the first step, is to really get that you don't have to believe your thoughts, and then come right back to breathing and to presence. We really need to step out of that idea that something's wrong with us when we feel bad. And I'll share a story. This is a true story that I keep thinking of. I keep visualizing it. This took place in Southeast Asia, where there was this massive statue of the Buddha. It was not an attractive statue. It was just huge. And people loved it just because it had been around for centuries. It had survived, storms and armies and changes of government. But one season, it was really dry and it started cracking. And so the monks looked inside. It was plaster clay, and they looked inside, and what shined out from through the cracks was gold, the shine of gold. It turned out it was covered with plaster and clay, but inside it was a solid gold Buddha, the largest in Southeast Asia. And the monks believe that it had been covered over during difficult times because there was an invading army they thought would destroy it or steal it, really. It was covered over just like we cover over our own goodness. We cover over our purity. We cover over our real hearts and intelligence to kind of protect us in difficult situations. And that becomes the habit. So when we're stressed, we're not coming from the gold. We're living in our coverings, the persona that we're presenting. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, we're trying to look good to others, or we're defensive, or we're judgmental, or we're playing out our addiction, whatever it is, we're living in the cover. And the pain is we forget the gold. And if you, right in these moments, aren't remembering that your essence is really you are bright, you have a beautiful heart, you have all sorts of goodness living through you. If you forget that, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be empowered. You're not going to have confidence. So I think, this is a way of saying, for anyone that's dealing with depression or anxiety or stress, in some way they have to remember the gold. They have to remember their goodness, and they have to trust themselves. And what I can do, if you'd like, this might be a good point, is just give us a kind of a simple guided practice to work with the difficult emotions that keep us in our coverings. Would this be a good time for that?
I think that's a great idea, actually.
Yeah.
And this practice, the way you can remember it is RAIN, the acronym RAIN, RAIN. So I'll explain it a little and then we'll just walk through it. And you might be thinking to yourself right now, what is it you want to work on? Is there what right now in your life is bringing up a difficult emotion? Is there something going on in a relationship? Is there something going on at school? Is there something going on to do with your body? Is there something going on that's bringing up anxiety or that's bringing up hurt, or that's bringing up anger? Whatever feels difficult. And what you can do is you let yourself think of the situation that actually is triggering it right now. It might be something going on with a parent, or with somebody you're dating. Could be something to do with, an addictive behavior that you're having a hard time with. Food, drugs, overdoing it. It could have to do with anything, but think of a situation that triggers the bad feelings. And actually in your mind, like you're looking at a movie, freeze at the frame where you're most triggered. It might be somebody else you're talking to, and what they're saying to you. It's like maybe they're saying something critical, and you're seeing the expression on their face, and you're hearing the words they're saying. So just stop at the frame where you get activated and notice where you are, what room you're in. And in the beginning of rain, the R of rain is you just recognize whatever the strongest feeling is in you right now. So maybe the strongest feeling is anger, or maybe it's fear. And when you noticed it with the R of rain, which is recognize, just mentally whisper it. And it may be more than one thing, just whatever's there. The R of rain, just by itself, just naming what you're noticing, gives you a little more power because you're witnessing what's going on. The A of rain is allow, which means don't judge it, don't push it away, don't try to change it, don't try to fix it. For just a few moments, you're just going to let it be there. Give it some space. So let's say what's going on is anxiety, you're naming it with the recognize, and then you're just saying, okay, let it be. You can even say it's just anxiety. Just let it be there. The I of rain is investigate. And this takes some courage, because now is when you actually investigate as to where you're feeling it. Investigation's not so mental, it's physical. Like, where do you feel the anxiety? Is it your throat, your chest, your belly? And you begin to investigate by feeling in your body and breathing. And if you want to, put your hand where you feel it. Or maybe just put your hand on your heart. It helps you stay connected with what's going on in your body. You know, our issues are in our tissues. So if you can stay in your body for a few moments and breathe with it, and just feel it there, it helps. And you might sense, what is that feeling most want from you right now? How does it want you to be with it? Does it want acceptance? Does it want forgiveness? Does it want love? Understanding? The N of rain is to offer what it needs. And you might simply just call on your high self, your wisest self, your most loving self, and just offer a message. And it helps to be putting your hand on your heart, and it helps to send the message through your hand to your heart. And it might be simply, if it's anxiety, thank you for trying to protect me, but I'm okay right now. Or it might be, I'm here and I'm not leaving. Or it might be, trust yourself. Or it might be just, it's not your fault. It's okay, you can relax. But send a message that's comforting. And the way you end the meditation, I call this after the rain, is notice who you were when you started. Let's say you were an anxious self or an angry self, and that there's a little more freedom, a little more space, a little more empowerment. You're a little more home in yourself. Okay, you can open your eyes.
Thank you.
So that's the rain meditation. Yeah.
You know, I came into this a hot mess. I feel like really at peace compared to where I was an hour ago. No more worries. We're doing this now. Everything's going fine.
Wow, beautiful. Yeah. And what about you, Zion?
I enjoyed that. Thank you. I appreciate that. That was really calming. It's crazy how it worked. It was really cool.
Yeah, well, you can do it on your own, and you can take longer if you need longer, because I did it, sometimes you need time to get into each step, or you can do it really quickly, and you'll be surprised if you just walk through it and go, you're feeling anxious. Okay, anxiety, just name it. Just give it a little space, feel it in your body, just breathe with it a little and just say, it's okay. It's okay. Amazing. You get bigger, you get more free, you get more empowered. It's pretty cool.
Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you for talking with us.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'm just really want to honor you both, Zion and Noah. I feel like you really beautiful way of asking questions, and your presence is great. You both have a lot of talent.
Our interview with Tara Brach was really enlightening. What really stuck with me was how she was talking about the statue of the Buddha and how it was covered up and people, found like the golden inside of it, like in its inner beauty.
Ultimately, you're kind of holding yourself back when you're not you. And that just made me realize how much I need to start being my true self each and every day.
Yeah, it was kind of an awakening, really.
Yeah, and I think everything we pretty much did on this podcast was a little bit of an awakening? I can't even say it. It really was. Just the interviews and getting to meet all these wonderful people talk about mental health and see the passion they have for it. And getting to meet you, Noah, that was super awesome as well.
Yeah, this was an amazing experience. Meeting you also, Zion, was something that it's priceless, honestly. Human connection is one of those things that you can't really weigh the value of.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we did a really good job with this podcast. I'm really proud of what we're doing, and I hope that we can continue to do it and bring out awareness to mental health.
Yeah, I know we didn't cover every mental health issue in this podcast.
It just means that there's always more reporting to do. So follow Student Reporting Labs on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter to see more pieces this coming school year about teen mental health. And there may be more on our minds.
There's always going to be more on our minds. Today's episode was produced by Student Reporting Lab's youth media producer, Briget Ganske, with production assistance from Mercedes Azigi.
Executive producer, Leah Clapman, SRL Senior Director, Elisa Estrada, and help from the rest of the Student Reporting Lab staff.
And music by Blue Dot Sessions.
Thanks again to Tara Brach for giving us her time.
Once again, if you or someone you know needs help, we have a list of resources at studentreportinglabs.org/mental health resources.
And tell your friends about us. Spread the word. The more people who know about mental health, the better.